When the cameras started flashing and whispers turned into a frenzy, no one expected this moment to happen so suddenly. Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban appearing side by side again. Calm, composed, yet impossible to ignore. And now, fans are asking the same question all over the internet. Is their relationship stronger than ever? Or is there something deeper we're not being told? Before we go further, make sure you stay with this story until the end, because what happened behind the scenes might completely change how you see their relationship. For years, Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban have mastered something rare in celebrity culture: privacy. In an industry where every detail is dissected, their love story has always existed just outside the spotlight. No constant headlines, no oversharing, no dramatic reveals. Just quiet consistency. But that silence is exactly what makes this latest appearance so powerful and so mysterious. It all started with what seemed like a routine public sighting, a casual moment, a simple walk. But within minutes, photos began circulating online, and fans quickly noticed something different. It wasn't just that they were together, it was how they were together. The body language, the ease, the subtle connection that doesn't need to be explained. Search trends spiked almost instantly. Keywords like Bruno Mars girlfriend 2026, Jessica Caban relationship update, and Bruno Mars dating history began climbing. Because when a couple like this steps into the light, even briefly, it sends a signal. And fans? They listen. But here's where things get even more interesting. Despite being together for over a decade, Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban have never followed the typical celebrity relationship playbook. No flashy red carpet domination. No viral proposal moment. No public declarations crafted for headlines. And yet, somehow, they've lasted longer than most high-profile couples in Hollywood. So what changed now? Some insiders suggest that this appearance wasn't accidental, that it may be tied to upcoming projects, branding strategy, or even a shift in how Bruno Mars wants to present his personal life moving forward. Others believe it's much simpler, that after years of staying low-key, they're just more comfortable being seen together again. But fans aren't convinced it's that simple, because there's one detail that has everyone talking, and it's something you might have missed at first glance. In the photos, Jessica Caban appears more confident than ever, standing not behind but beside Bruno Mars in a way that feels intentional, equal, present, visible, and for longtime followers of their relationship, that subtle shift speaks volumes. Midway through all this speculation, another layer begins to unfold. Social media accounts dedicated to celebrity tracking noticed increased activity around Bruno Mars' recent movements, studio visits, private events, and now this public appearance. Could this be part of a larger rollout? A new era? Or is it purely personal? Because if there's one thing Bruno Mars understands, it's timing. And just when the conversation starts to settle, a new question emerges. What does this mean for their future? Are they moving towards something more public? A potential engagement? Or are they simply redefining boundaries on their own terms without pressure from the outside world? What makes this story so compelling isn't just the appearance itself, but the silence that follows it. No official statement, no confirmation, no denial, just images and interpretation. And in today's digital landscape, that silence can be louder than any announcement. As the footage continues to circulate and fan theories grow stronger, one thing becomes clear: Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban haven't just returned to the spotlight, they've taken control of it, in their own way. Because in a world obsessed with constant updates, mystery becomes power. And now for the real payoff, the reason this moment matters more than it seems. This isn't just about a couple being seen together. It's about longevity in an industry where relationships rarely survive. It's about choosing privacy over pressure, authenticity over performance. And maybe, just maybe, it's about showing that not every love story needs to be loud to be real. As fans continue to watch closely, one question remains: will this be the beginning of a more open chapter for Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban? Or just another fleeting glimpse into a relationship that thrives in the shadows? Stay tuned, because if history has taught us anything, it's that when Bruno Mars makes a move, there's always more beneath the surface. And if you've made it this far, Don't forget to share your thoughts. Are they stepping into a new era together, or keeping things exactly the way they've always been? Either way, this story is far from over. And just when it seemed like the story had reached its peak, something unexpected began to unfold. Something that made fans look twice, rewind clips, and question everything they thought they understood about Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban. Because within hours of that appearance, a new wave of speculation started building. Not from tabloids, but from the fans themselves. Observant, detail-driven, and relentless. They weren't just looking at the surface anymore. They were analyzing every frame, every gesture, every subtle interaction. One clip in particular began circulating rapidly. It showed Bruno Mars pausing briefly before entering a venue, turning slightly toward Jessica Caban. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, almost instinctive motion. For most people, it would go unnoticed. But for those who have followed their relationship for years, it felt significant. That moment sparked a deeper conversation. Because what people are starting to realize is this: relationships like theirs don't survive this long without evolution. And evolution doesn't happen loudly, it happens in the small things. The pauses, the glances, the decisions to show up together. And suddenly, the narrative begins to shift. Instead of asking whether they're still together, fans are now asking something much bigger. Have they been building something behind the scenes this entire time? The timing adds another layer to the mystery. Bruno Mars has been rumored to be working on new music, possibly preparing for a major return. And if there's one thing consistent about his career, it's that every move is calculated. Every appearance, every absence, every reappearance. It all fits into a larger picture. So now the question becomes impossible to ignore. Is Jessica Caban part of that picture in a more visible way moving forward? Because historically, she's always been there, but rarely seen. A constant presence in the background of a global superstar's life. And yet now, she's stepping into the frame. Not forcefully, not dramatically, but undeniably. And that changes everything. Halfway through this unfolding story, fans begin connecting dots that may or may not exist, but feel too aligned to dismiss. Some point out that long-term privacy often leads to one of two outcomes: complete separation from the spotlight, or a carefully controlled reintroduction. If this is the latter, then what we're witnessing right now might not be random at all. It might be the beginning of a shift. And here's where the tension really builds. Because while there's no official confirmation of anything new, no engagement announcement, no joint interview, no coordinated reveal, the energy around them feels different. More intentional, more grounded, less like secrecy, and more like control. Even body language experts online have started weighing in, suggesting that their recent appearance reflects a level of comfort and stability rarely seen in celebrity couples. Not performative, not staged, just real. But in a media landscape driven by extremes, real can be the most disruptive thing of all. And just as the conversation starts leaning towards certainty, another twist pulls everything back into question. A source close to the situation, unverified, but widely discussed, hinted that Bruno Mars has always prioritized protecting what matters most from public consumption. That his silence isn't avoidance, but strategy. That every time the spotlight gets too close, he steps back, just enough to keep control. If that's true, then this appearance becomes even more intriguing, because stepping into visibility even briefly breaks that pattern, unless it's part of a new one. As more footage emerges and angles continue to surface, fans notice another subtle detail. Jessica Caban doesn't just look present, she looks prepared. Composed in a way that suggests familiarity with attention, rather than discomfort. And that detail alone raises a powerful possibility. What if this isn't just a moment? What if it's a transition? Because in the world of entertainment, visibility isn't accidental. It's chosen, timed, designed. And when someone as meticulous as Bruno Mars allows that visibility to happen, even for a second, it carries weight. And now we arrive at the emotional core of this story. Beyond the speculation, beyond the theories, beyond the viral clips, there's something undeniably human happening here. A relationship that has endured quietly, now being observed loudly. A private bond meeting public curiosity. And that collision creates tension, because the more people look, the more they want to know. And the more they want to know, the more silence becomes a statement. So where does that leave us? Right on the edge of something bigger. Because if this truly is the start of a new chapter, whether personal, professional, or both, then what comes next could redefine how fans see not just their relationship, but Bruno Mars himself. Not just as a global icon, not just as a performer, but as someone navigating love, privacy, and visibility in a way that challenges the norms of celebrity culture. And maybe that's the real story here. Not the appearance, not the speculation, but the possibility that after years of staying just out of reach, Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban are choosing, on their own terms, to be seen. Or at least, seen just enough. And as the conversation continues to grow, one thing is certain: this moment has captured attention for a reason. Not because it answers questions, but because it creates them. So keep watching closely, because the next move, whether it's silence or something more, might reveal everything. And if there's one thing we've learned from Bruno Mars, it's that the biggest moments don't always come with a warning. They just happen, and suddenly, everyone is paying attention. And just when the conversation feels like it's starting to slow down, it accelerates again. Faster, louder, and far more intense than before. Because now, the narrative around Bruno Mars and Jessica Caban isn't just about a single appearance anymore. It's turning into a full-blown cultural moment. Fan forums are lighting up. Comment sections are overflowing. Every new angle, every unseen frame, every slowed-down clip is being dissected like evidence in a case that no one wants to close. And the deeper people look, the more layered this story becomes. Because here's what's starting to stand out. There's a consistency in their energy that feels almost intentional. Not overly affectionate, not distant, just balanced, controlled. And in today's world, where celebrity couples often swing between extremes, that balance feels unusual, almost strategic. Some fans are now suggesting that what we're seeing isn't just a relationship. It's a partnership that has quietly evolved over time. One built not on public validation, but on mutual understanding. And if that's true, then this recent visibility might be less about exposure and more about alignment. Because timing, once again, refuses to be ignored. Rumors around Bruno Mars possibly preparing a new era continue to circulate. Studio sessions, industry whispers, subtle movements that hint at something bigger forming beneath the surface. And when those whispers collide with a moment like this, where his personal life briefly intersects with public attention, it creates a narrative that feels impossible to separate. So now people aren't just watching, they're anticipating. And anticipation changes everything, because it turns passive viewers into active observers, turns moments into clues, and suddenly every decision, intentional or not, starts to carry meaning. But just as the theories begin stacking up, another unexpected shift happens. A clip surfaces showing the two leaving separately from the same location. No drama, no tension, just distance. And instantly, the internet splits into two sides. One side sees it as proof that nothing has changed, that privacy still defines their dynamic.